Hello everyone. Good morning and welcome back to the next part of our Fundamentals of Character Design series. If you are just following along, we are going through this whole book and seeing what we can basically learn from what they teach us in this book. And last week we went over... we did establishing the story, and we talked about building the character and basically giving them personality. So we went through and we talked about the 5 questions. Who are they? How do they feel? What are they doing? When are they? Where are they? And we went through and we looked at each one that they gave us, and we identified to see if we can identify their personality just by looking at them. And we got to this guy, and he didn't really have a personality. We just knew that he was a loyal scout leader. So I gave you guys homework in the last episode, and that was to recreate a loyal scout leader. And your only, pretty much the only thing I gave you was he was a loyal scout leader. And you had to give him some personality and things like that, or her. You were able to just basically create a loyal scout leader. So I have finished my homework, and what I came up with is this one. So I made him into a loyal scout leader, and he's fulfilled, caring, neat, jolly, and playful. So hopefully I carried out those personality traits in this image here. And before the final image, I did go through a lot of different things. I thought about putting some stickers on him to show that he's like playful and caring. And I knew that I wanted to keep him kind of round, so I played with the idea of making him a human, and then he just looked kind of like a babysitter. So I kind of went with that, but then I refined the uniform a little bit, and then I played around with making an animal one, and I even did my character as a scout leader, just for fun. But I ended up going with the bear, and I think it turned out pretty cute. So this week, and also if you guys want to share your homework or what you've drawn or what you've learned, you can always post on Instagram and tag me in the photo or the story. You can always tag me in it, and that way I'll see it when you post. Okay, so this week we're going to talk about telling the story. And I'm just going to move this flag. I have this flag here because it basically is going to it's going to tell me where we are, where we stopped at. Okay, so when telling the story, keeping the tone of the project in mind is key. So they basically say that it's important to consider your target audience. So, you know, whether if you're drawing for adults, teens, children, keep that in mind basically when you are creating your project. So they are showing that for sticking to humorous, friendly, and simple designs is a good way to go with a younger audience. But as you move to an older audience, you can kind of incorporate darker and more eerie tones and make it more visually, you know, creepy, scary if need be. So basically they say that it is our job to kind of gauge and figure out if we need to go and be more simple or if we need to go and make it more complex. So when working with, let's say, a preschool audience, you want to make sure that you use fun designs, shapes, and colors to keep their attention. And they're showing that this little cop here would be kind of good for a preschooler because he has a nice, good shape. you know, the colors. He's easily identifiable as a cop. So if I was a preschooler, I would be able to see, oh, that's a policeman, you know. And then you have this one. She is a ghost widow for a dark, spooky theme story. And they have different designs here, but I think they went with this one. And they're saying that she could fit into a teen horror kind of place or a gothic TV show. So they give other examples. So we have this mobster guy here who's scary but not too scary. You know, he doesn't make you want to go run and hide under a bed. He's kind of scary in a funny way. So then we also have this witch down here at the bottom who was designed for a child audience, and she has a comical and friendly tone. She's also spooky but not scary. So we have scary but not too scary, and then we have spooky but not scary at all. So she's kind of like fun spooky, like campfire story spooky. And then we have this basketball player here, and they're basically, you can look at these characters and tell what kind of audience it is. So this one here was supposed to be for a children's TV show, and they gave her a knife here, so that's probably not good. And you know, it doesn't match the tone. She was supposed to be for a children's TV show based on nursery rhymes. So we are going to recreate her for homework. But I'm going to continue on through this section first, because this section is a bit long, just a little bit. We got a couple more pages, so I'm going to go through and then we're going to come back and talk about the homework. So we have simplification, and this plays a big part in character design. The simpler you make it, the more impactful it becomes, so they say. And sometimes basically less is more, and what you do include kind of makes a difference. So you can have a simple character, and there can be certain parts of that simplified character that makes them memorable. So you want to take a look at your character and ask yourself, what makes them them? And you want to amplify that and make it as simple as possible. So you can start by shapes, simple shapes. And the simpler the shape is, the more you can play around with the design, finding ways to incorporate different shapes and squish them and make them different sizes and things like that. So like in this top one, it says, if you look at the Viking, omitting his face and opting for eyes in his helmet streamlines his body with his beard. So it's kind of giving him, you know, he's kind of like a mystery Viking. Like, you don't really know what his face looks like. You just know that, you know, he's showing up and he's ready. And he even looks like a little crow friend here. So depending on, you know, what you add to the character, you can keep it simple but still add things to make it, you can tell he's a Viking. And he's got a lot of simple shapes. He's got some rectangles, he got a triangle, you know. So same thing with these. They have like, I call them custom shapes, but they're not like traditional shapes. They're just kind of different shapes, but they went with, you know, they match each body. And sometimes when you do a shape, it kind of matches the personality too. So when you are designing your character, it says to keep one shape in mind when you are designing them. So, you know, bouncing opposite shapes off each other for different characters is good and fun. So it just kind of depends, you know, but keep it simple is basically what they're saying. So let's see if we can find some good shapes here. So this one looks like it has a lot of triangles. Like, here's some triangle here. This can be a triangle here. So it looks like she was made out of triangles. This guy has a nice rounded shape. Really simple, but lots of circles. Some rectangles are in there. You can still tell he's a fisherman, even though these shapes are really simple. Even the birds have their own little shape, so that's pretty cool. And then we have over here the football players. Now this, I like this shape with the silhouette, and you can basically make a silhouette first and then create the character. And then down here it says sometimes pushing a shape too far doesn't work. So you have to think about, you know, how well this shape would work with a project. So it says if you were doing animation, these shapes might not work very well, but on paper it could work. So basically what works well for one project might not work well for another. So basically, one of the most effective ways to apply simplistic shape is to get out in the world and study real people. So it says, use the shapes you see, break them down, and exaggerate them. And you can see different shape combinations. I see lots of rectangles. This guy is one big triangle. He's pretty much rectangles. His ears, his hat, everything is rectangles. Even his bag, look, his bag is triangle. So that's pretty cool. So we're moving on to exaggeration, and I hope this is not too many topics, but I'm trying to maybe go by section, I'm thinking, until we get to the bigger parts, because some of these bigger parts are really big. But this is just we're still in the overview area. This is just this is the what is character design. So we're just basically learning what character design is. And then after this section, we'll move on into the other things. So here's an old guy, and he has a wheelchair and a mobility scooter, which is this thing here. But what they did, they over exaggerated, and they gave him a super hunch to make him, you know, to make it, basically they're demonstrating how old he is with that extra hunch in his back. And the same thing with this lady here. You know, they have the old grumpy lady, but they really amplified it, and they made her you know, the basically more exaggerated. This one is more exaggerated than the first one. And when you use this effectively, it can make a character stand out and bring out more personality that wasn't there before. So if something is worth doing, it's worth overdoing. So if a nose is big, make it bigger. If the ears are big, make them bigger. So if, you know, you can over exaggerate it. So if they have small eyes, make them small or basically non-existent. You know, keep in mind how it will assist in whatever the story it is you're trying to tell. So you want to give the impression that, you know, this character has an impact on the story. So like here it says, when designing him, the first attempt was not really good for the attendant story, because you can't really tell that, you know, he's like a soul singer. He kind of looks like a bouncer at a club. So they over exaggerated him, and they kind of, you know, showed him singing, and they exaggerated the shapes and, you know, his face expressions and things like that. And you can tell, especially with this one, in this one, you can tell you can look at him and say, okay, yeah, he looks like a soul singer. Versus with this one, it's kind of like he looks like a bodyguard. So it's a good way to make your character even more noticeable when you exaggerate some of their features. So like with the grandma here, they exaggerated her. They took her feet away, So they just gave her one big body shape. And they, you know, they made her more, what's the word I'm looking for? More warm and soft and motherly looking. And I think it looks better that they took the feet away, and you know, they gave her a bigger smile, and they gave her more wrinkles. So I guess they wanted to show her age too. Okay, so that's the end of that section. Here's a sneak peek into next week's section. So next week we'll be doing research and ideation. But let's go back because we got some homework this week, guys. So we're going to go back and we're going to talk about this character here. So what we're going to do, we are going to create a scary, or more like a spooky, but not scary character for a nursery rhyme book. And I'm going to leave your imagination to you. So it can be, you can recreate a nursery rhyme character, or you can create your own character that's telling nursery rhymes, or you can create, you know, your own nursery rhyme themed character. But you don't want to make them too scary. You want them spooky but not scary. So it's going to be geared towards a younger audience. And you want to keep in mind, you know, what we talked about. So the shapes you want to keep in mind, and, you know, want to keep in mind that we don't want them, you know, we want them kind of spooky like her, but not scary. We don't want it like this, because that would be too scary for a younger audience. We don't want to do what they did either and give our spooky, scary person a knife. So keep that in mind when creating your nursery rhyme character. And keep in mind of shapes and silhouettes and exaggeration as well. All right, that is the end of this episode for this week. And I'm gonna try something a little bit different. I think I'm going to maybe post my process video, like my homework videos. So when I'm doing my homework, maybe I will record it and then post that separately. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Also, if you are following along with me, go ahead and put a purple heart down in the comment section so I know who's following along, who's doing homework, and things like that. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by.